LeBron did not play, and the Lakers lost again, and they're all but out of the playoffs. One of the things that's sort of mystifying to me about the NBA, and this is why strong parenting matters and strong bosses matter and strong commissioners. Since Adam Silver took over as commissioner of the NBA, I cannot be the only person that's noticed this. He's normalized stars, multiple stars, resting regularly, big television games. As the league is increasingly on TV, at least on a regional level, I find it discouraging. And maybe it's the small town kid in me. I grew up 2 hours from Seattle. We didn't have a ton of money. Divorced kid, right? So we'd go to maybe one Sonic game every 3 years. The idea of going to a Sonics game as a kid in downtown Freddie Brown or Jack Sikma or Gus Williams, two of those three were not playing, not because of some really ugly injury. They just wanted rest, I think is really bad form. I know the Lakers are a glamour franchise, but I see this every night throughout the league. What makes college basketball so watchable? Did you see the Duke-Carolina game? Not sure if you did. Had like the highest rating, second highest college basketball rating in over a decade. It's not because the officiating's great or the skill level is remarkable. It's because of how deeply they care about each possession. Now, when the NBA gets to the postseason, especially the conference finals and finals, nobody disputes the urgency ratchets up and the great players put on a clinic. But if you don't want to play in these regular season games, and increasingly it looks like star players don't want to, cut the season to 58, 60 games. Get to the playoffs and extend those. You know, I've been arguing for years that we're just simply a more distracted society, a more caffeinated society, a more frenetic society. We're on the go. We really don't have time for regular season games. And what's happening is the NFL is pulling away from other leagues because it's once a week. You can be a busy dad, a successful parent, multiple kids. You can still give your local team 3 hours on Sunday if you're in Cleveland or in Tampa. But society has changed. Cultures have changed. I'm to the point now with regular seasons, NHL, NBA, and Major League Baseball, lop a third of the regular seasons off, create multiple new layers of playoff basketball because the stars don't look like they care. And basketball is a beautiful sport. And you can see with college basketball, American sports fans are dying for basketball that matters. We're not watching March Madness because St. Peter's has NBA level players. We're watching it because they care and they're passionate and they're all in and there's urgency. As far as the Lakers go, they're not officially out of the playoffs, but they were officially out of the playoffs by about week 3. It's an old roster. The downside to an old roster is, as chronicled often on this podcast and on my radio and TV shows, the older a roster, the more often it gets hurt and the longer those injured players are out. And I don't know why any Laker fan would want to run back LeBron and AD for the third year after that bubble championship. We all understand now, LeBron's going to give you about 55, 60 games. He's going to take a lot of back-to-backs or close to back-to-backs off. He's old. He'll be in his 20th year. AD, because of his style and his body, is brittle, and it's going to give you about 55, 60 games as well. Look at the numbers. So to me, you've got to take a big, big swing in the offseason. I've said it before. I would move everybody except LeBron James. And if he wouldn't embrace, for the first time in his career, playing with young players, I'd move off and trade LeBron James as well. I also have to comment on this. I try to be fair with LeBron James. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the stoic and legendary figure for the Lakers. He's probably the only comparable player to LeBron in terms of longevity, duration of quality. So he said over the weekend that LeBron should be embarrassed by some of his actions outside of basketball. Can I throw up a big stop sign on that? Listen, Kareem was a difficult teammate. Kareem's never been able to land either the broadcasting or coaching job he so desires. He's prickly and difficult. And if you watch the HBO special, Winning Time on the Lakers, he is portrayed, I think, very accurately as perennially difficult. You don't have to agree with everything LeBron James does, but intent matters and effort matters. Okay, LeBron's not Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was about basketball and business. He didn't have much interest in anybody outside of his sphere. Like Michael Jordan was fine doing it the way he did it. But today, MJ seems and feels a little outdated for a star athlete. He really gave no rips at all about anything that wasn't Michael generated or Michael assisting. It was about Michael, his empire, and about enabling that or getting trampled. That's how he rolled. I'm okay with it. But LeBron James, from the school he built in Akron, to his sort of commitment to younger people, to his flourishing businesses, his intent's almost always right, and his passion and his ability to care about people above and beyond himself. Listen, go back, watch HBO's Winning Time. Players were selfish about sex, about themselves, about the money. I'm not saying LeBron is perfect, but you start naming athletes that have built stuff beyond themselves. And I love Brady and I love MJ, but it's mostly about their brand and adding to their stockpile of riches. LeBron has done a lot for other people. He's tried to elevate others often for most of his, 19, 20-year career. So nothing against Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but he was legendarily prickly, difficult, didn't get along with many. And it's easy now to go to Substack, write a column, and point out everybody else's imperfections. It's like, dude, there is a reason Kareem, one of the most intelligent athletes of my sportscasting career, never landed the many opportunities he thought he deserved. So one of the last free agent moves of note, talented wide receiver DeVante Parker from Miami was traded to the New England Patriots. The Patriots receiving core gets a little bit of a jolt, but it's still Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar. It's not exactly the Chiefs. What I find fascinating about New England is for years and years, we thought Bill was sort of ahead of the curve on virtually everything. Now, we know now, post-Brady divorce, even he can't win at the highest levels without a great quarterback. But I swear to God, if I didn't know better, I'd think he was tanking it and giving Robert Kraft his franchise back with no coordinators, no skilled people, and no elite edge rushers. Look at their roster. They can't stop the Buffalo Bills with J.C. Jackson. He's gone. They can't score and keep up with teams like the Chiefs or the Bills, and they didn't re-sign Shaq Mason. I don't know what they're doing. Reports now that Belichick will call plays. Doesn't it feel like he's still pissed about that Jimmy Garoppolo trade? And he's just going to hand Kraft a franchise, retire. It's going to have no coordinators. They'll need a new head coach and no playmakers. Now, I know that's not true. But on all the Belichick books, of which Ian O'Connor wrote a great one, Jeff Benedict wrote a great one, they really fell in love with their system. And what you're watching now is a team that simply doesn't match up. If you go look at the last 2 to 3 Super Bowls, quarterback, pass rush, weapons, they're not elite in any of those groups. I don't understand their offseason. Now, I know they spent a ton last year in free agency. I get it. And maybe they believe with their complex system, a second year in their system, some of those guys that didn't pop will, like Nelson Aguilar. But if somebody can explain where their money's going, they're not paying Mac Jones. They're not paying big money to any of the receivers. They're not paying big money now to any of their offensive linemen. They're not paying big money to a corner or a safety or an edge rusher. Where's it going? Where's it going?